So hello, everyone. Welcome to ATARCA pilot case results session, which is part of the ATARCA seminar week. So this ATARCA, and actually I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Ulrika Järvi-Haavisto. I'm a researcher at ATARCA from Aalto University. And I'm glad that you're all here, so welcome. So ATARCA Seminar Week is happening this week. We are 6 different organizations from all around Europe that present you this week the learnings and results from our 2-year research project, ATARCA. So ATARCA is funded by the European Union's Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Program. And this week we will have, yesterday we had an opening seminar with the keynotes, and tomorrow we will have an academic seminar. And then on Thursday we have a policy observatory, and on Friday, developer sessions still, if you're interested. But you can see the full program at atarca.eu/seminar. So you can check it out if you want to join us later this week as well. So a bit about today's agenda. In the beginning, I will give you a short project introduction. So what this ATARCA project is really about. Then we have the main presentations of today. So we have 3 different pilot case experiments that we have conducted during this project. We have Sonia Amadei from Aalto University present with her team, presenting us food futures case. Then we have Sofia Gonzalez and Sergi Cutillas from Novact to present Barcelona Green Shops case. And then we have Martin Moravec from Streamr presenting us the Talco.io platform for shareable NFTs case. But you might wonder what this ATARCA actually means. So ATARCA is a shortening from Accounting Technologies for Anti-Rivalry Coordination and Allocation. So in this project, our vision is to create new decentralized technology, so anti-rival tokens, and scientifically founded proposals for new policies to enable efficient, decentralized, market-style trading and ecosystems for anti-rival goods. So if you haven't heard of anti-rival good before, I can explain what they actually mean. So traditionally, in economics, a good is said to be a rival or a non-rival. So a rival good means that it's a rival if its consumption by one consumer prevents simultaneous consumption by other consumers, or if consumption by one party reduces the ability of another party to consume it. So there we have private goods and different kind of common pool goods. Then in the middle, we have non-rival goods. And a good is considered to be non-rival if for any level of production, the cost of providing it to an additional individual is 0. So we have club goods and different kind of public goods. And lastly, the good is said to be anti-rival if each person benefits more when other people are consuming it. So we have different kind of network goods and symbiotic goods. So for example, online games and also like open source software. That's a good example. So a bit of background for these ATARCA pilot case experiments, the rationale behind them. At ATARCA, we wanted to assess whether the introduction of incentives in the form of tokens helps to improve the production and allocation of anti-rival value. And the three ATARCA pilot cases, we have Food Futures, Barcelona Green Shops, and the Streamr Talk Up, aims to create incentive mechanisms that capture the positive externalities arising from sharing resources, especially information and data, to produce an accounting system or reward structure to support generation of anti-rival value. So what we aim for is efficient production and allocation of anti-rival goods. And to get there, we are using anti-rival cryptocurrency-based accounting using distributed ledger technology. And in the end, we're analyzing the applicability of anti-rival tokens to facilitate sharing and increasing the value. So that's a short introduction to what we do at ATARCA. But now I would like to give the floor to our pilot case presenters. So in the beginning, we have the Food Futures case. So Sonia and Shruti and Shreya, or Ruti, sorry. I welcome you to the floor. So please, you're welcome.
Hi, everyone. And I think Shreya Ruta will share the slides. So we're really happy to see you all and to have this opportunity to present the Food Futures pilot case. And thank you, Ulrika. That was actually an amazing introduction to what we're doing, probably the best I've seen us do so far. So I look forward to getting those slides from you. It was very clear. Okay, so to leap right into our case, I'm going to introduce my team, our team here working on the Food Futures project, which I believe is, wait, where's the team? There we go. So my colleagues who have been working throughout the whole ATARCA project since it began in May, anyway, of 2021, Shreya Sud and Ruta Tumiti, and together we have been developing the app with a software developer. So both of my research assistants and colleagues have graduated from the Aalto Design School in Creative Sustainability Design, and we're co-presenting. So I believe with that, I turn it over first to Ruta.
Yeah, thank you. As you might already know, the Food Futures project is a part of ATARCA, and in our project we focus particularly on promoting sustainable food consumption, and we focus on end user and consumer approach while we are collaborating with vendors and university. And in our project we have developed an app, and we use the blockchain technology. And next slide, please. And in general, our mission is to help to facilitate transition towards 1.5-degree target, and particularly in the Finnish context, we follow the Citrus released strategy on 1.5-degree lifestyles, and also our tool and the index within the tool is following the guidelines for the sustainable food consumption. The previous slide, please. Yes, and within our project, in our app, essential part is this food well-being and suffering index that we also have developed, which is a food sustainability index with several metrics, particularly on carbon footprint, material footprint, and others. And at this point, one of the most important metrics is the carbon footprint, and the index itself and the 3 threshold levels are based on the Citrus report that I mentioned before, to help consumers to consume sustainably and then within the planetary boundaries. And also the green and also it helps us to measure and see the changes towards more green and yellow choices. And within our project, as we also use the blockchain technology, we are issuing already the footprint. We can also call them handprint tokens, as they are measuring, recording, and validating more sustainable meal choices and helping to avoid emitting carbon by more sustainable food choices. And now I can hand over to Shreya.
Thanks. So here you can see the key app screens at a glance. So our application is at beta level right now, so it's available on Opera web browser for participants to use. So the first app screen demonstrates how a daily lunch menu are reflected on the homepage. And the next screen shows how we are trying to map out or visually represent where the aggregate impact of individual choices lay within this 1.5 degree thermometer. So it can also be compared as to where does the user's consumption pattern lie versus of the non-users and of what is for the other average visitors. Similarly, it's done at an aggregate collective level through these pie charts, as you can see on the third screen. And ultimately, we are able to, through the algorithm that we designed, we are able to issue these footprint tokens based on consistent sustainable choices over time. So last autumn, before we wrapped up the year, we also participated in this competition through University of Indiana, where the theme was to make an educational video for Tragedy of the Commons. And we created a project overview and how we also described how we are trying to contribute towards solving tragedy of the commons by one meal at a time through our pedagogical approach through a MOOC by learning by doing. So yeah, another good achievement of last year was that we got permission to get our MOOC running with University of Helsinki called Sustainable Consumption. And Sonia can tell you more about it.
Okay, so turning to the MOOC, it was the original vision of how we would run the pilot experiment that we had to recruit subjects for that experiment. And it had always been part of the plan that we would recruit students. The difference in how we implemented our pilot experiment and the role that the students played is that in most, well, many social scientific experiments, the students are in a lab and they're doing, for example, a game theoretic experiment where everything is a simulation and nothing is real. But our idea had been that the students who were the subjects in our experiment, that we would recruit them from a course, but instead of doing a laboratory type of simulation, the students would be recruited to use an app in the actual field, being the venue where they make meal choices. And so creating the MOOC both was a function of having the context to recruit subjects for the experiment, and at the same time, it was also a basis for us to create the pedagogical structure so that anyone who was using the app and participating in the experiment would understand the theory that's been underlying ATARCA, which was essentially what Ulrika walked us through in that very effective introduction. But we taught that at a deeper level. So the MOOC structure was such that students were able to choose voluntarily whether they would participate in the experiment and use the app, or just take the MOOC and write 500 words of alternative assignment. And we have our numbers here in the first pilot trial, which I don't know why we don't have it there, but MOOC 1 was 12 completions, MOOC 2 was 19 completions, and in MOOC 3 we have 36 completions. And through the MOOC, as we integrated the app, which we already told you about in the first part of our presentation, we were able to get 207 validations, meaning certified meal selections validated through the app that then were eligible for the food print tokens. So I guess we didn't add the numbers for the MOOC 2 for the validations, but I think we have them on the next slide. So that information will come. So go ahead to the next slide. So because the entire point of the ATARCA experiment has been this demonstration that we're achieving allocative efficiency, from the very beginning of the design of the pilot experiment, you could say that there was an overlap of having that very important measure and indicator of experimental success was embedded in the deepest level in terms of the software development and the user interface, so that the experimental subjects, to use that horrible phrase, were themselves, they could watch the data as it accumulated in terms of the allocative efficiency. What do we mean by allocative efficiency, or what was the overall mission of our app? If we recall back to an earlier slide that Ruth had discussed, the one with a 1.5 degree lifestyle, that the overall app had the function of achieving a meal consumption pattern that would be consistent with the 1.5 degree lifestyle. However, in terms of knowing whether me or a community has actually achieved that allocative efficiency in terms of making meal choices that are ultimately sustainable with respect to their carbon footprint, that is the work that our app, the function that it provides. And the question, though, is we provide the functionality, but does it really work? And of course, this is just a pilot experiment, so our numbers aren't that great. But if we look at our trial 2, which was operating in November and December, here is where we had, so this is comparative meal selection trial 2, app users' choices compared to vendors' total meal sales. And while I don't pretend not to be excited by this data, I am really excited to, and this is the first time we're sharing with it publicly here in this workshop for the end of ATARCA. So in trial 2, we separated out, these are the total number of validations of meal choices that we had within the venue where the meals were, this is not the right slide, by the way, where there's one above this.
Do you mean this one?
Yeah. So the first one that we have is to compare the 49 validations where you can see the percent of people using the app that chose the green meal, which would be plant-based protein. 67% of our app users chose the green meal, and 33% of the app users chose the yellow meal. So what we have in the right, and this is thanks to the fact that we're partnering with the business vendor UniCafe at the University of Helsinki. They shared with us their data in terms of the total number of meals that they had, and then we were able to classify those meals according to the same classification scheme that we were using in the app. So all of the meals were already in our index and had a green, yellow, or red label. So you can see where we don't have that many data points, they have an extreme amount of data points. And this is the overall profile: 15% red meals, which would be pork or dairy. For UniCafe, 40% yellow, which is chicken or fish, and 45% green, which is plant-based protein. So based on this, and it's a pilot experiment, so we don't have an extreme number of meal validations, but you can see that there's a demonstrable achievement of allocative efficiency. And of course, then the discussion is, well, what all can we learn from that? How effective are we really? What are other factors that might be playing into this? And what is the underlying mechanism? But that's going to be our next step for future research. In the next slide, we have the fact that we were teaching MOOC, and our MOOC now is in the Open University. It's going to be taught long after ATARCA. So 2 years after ATARCA, this MOOC should still be there, and it should be still powered by the same app and the same software, although hopefully it will be in the App Store by then. And the fact that we're in the Open University meant that people in Oulu couldn't walk into UniCafe and choose a meal, and we had to offer the meal of we had to offer the option of home validation. So you can see that we had 88 home validations, and you may wonder, how do we validate what people are eating at home? People validate their meals by taking photographs. And no, we're not using AI to screen the meals, but we're having Shreya, I believe, has been the one to be validating all the meals by visual inspection, and I understand sometimes rejects meals. What I think is really interesting about the home validation is that it's still demonstrably better. We didn't have a pie chart of the per capita Finnish diet, but it's in the red zone, because there are 19 kilograms of beef per capita, 24 kilograms of cheese, and it's a heavily carbon intensive diet. But here, I think what this shows is that if there's any skepticism about people at home not being truthful about what they're eating, at least 17% is being honest because they chose red. And we have this just so that we're giving the option for that validation. We're not sure ultimately, we're not giving blockchain tokens for this. Then if we look at the next slide, this is the leading edge of our current data. So now we don't have all of the vendor data yet because it's so much data in terms of so many meals sold. We're waiting to get that from UniCafe, but in the meantime, we can compare the 45 validations that we had in UniCafe, again, a very high green percentage. This time we did have some red percentage. And if we compare that to the home, we have the home validation, which had 162 validations. And we can see demonstrably this is better than the per capita Finnish diet. And then we'll be able to compare that to the UniCafe meals sold as a more concrete data point when we get that data. So if we keep going then, what I wanted to discuss next is that we built into our data collection, we not only had the concrete data that was the meals chosen, which are our hard data points for evaluating allocative efficiency, but we were also asking backup questions in terms of when the students were working their way through the MOOC, they were invited to give out answers to the survey questions that we have, and we're sharing a few with you here. It's in our longer report, which will be available at least probably within a week or so. So here was one of the questions we asked. Did you find it motivating to see the collective impact of sustainable meal choices? And I think we went through the app so quickly, we probably didn't really impart all of its different functionalities, but one functionality is that you'll always be able to tell at a glance the collective meal impact of the community, and the participating subjects said well over 50% that yes, it was important to see the collective impact of the sustainable meal choices. And again, this is made possible by the fact that we're gathering the data to enter into the DLT system. And it's the fact that we have this powerful data collection documented through the blockchain that we're able to impart this information about collective impact. So here is a question that's really been bothering us. We have several questions, how effective is our allocative efficiency? But we do have this lurking question that, okay, I go to UniCafe, I really want the food print token, or at least I don't want to look bad by making a red choice. So I eat plant-based protein at lunch, but as soon as I get home for dinner, I just can't wait to eat at Hesburger and get a beef burger. But we were really interested to see, so this question said, if you tend to eat more plant-based food during lunches, validated with the Food Futures app. Please mark if any of the following are true. And here we didn't have that many responses, but it may be because people didn't tend to eat more plant-based protein. We don't really know. But here only one person said that they may tend to eat more chicken or fish. It would be during other meals. But most of the people said that they were not changing their actions at other meals. So what that indicates is that we can reduce the carbon footprint for some meals, and that doesn't necessarily mean that people will compensate by going home or eating in another venue by saying, okay, now I want to get my share of a red coated or even yellow coated meal. So on the next slide, we have allocative efficiency related to thinking about how the app shows how one's individual choices are compared to the average finished consumer. And here it was interesting. I actually didn't expect that it would be 70% of people found that that was important and motivating information. Maybe it's because the per capita Finnish diet in terms of its sustainability with respect to CO2 footprint, maybe it's just not that well known. So that was an interesting piece of information that we've gotten from the survey that we conducted. And then another question, have you been using the application prototype consistently? 25 responses, and 46% of the people, 48% said that they were. And the next slide. So then we also wanted to learn a little bit about what people's diets were before participating, because I think one of the most cynical comments that we've gotten along the way is that, well, of course, all the vegan, plant-based diet people that are already on a plant-based diet, that they're going to be our major users. And of course we do have, if you look at the different percents and of the colors that are related to this, that we do have a significant component of people that came to us with a vegan plant-based diet, but it was 11.8% reporting that that was the diet prior to joining the app. And then of course we do have 23% that were meat-based protein, including beef. Where's the meat-based with chicken and pork? So you can see that the people that are coming to the app do come from a background with a lot of different dietary normal patterns on their plate, so to speak. So what best describes your diet currently? And then again, we get quite a wide variety, including a significant proportion that say meat-based protein diet, including chicken and pork. So that just shows that the users that we attracted, even though this was within the context of a MOOC dedicated to sustainable consumption, that overall we do have a great variety of participants in our pilot experiment. So the next slide was just thinking a bit about how do we evaluate the outcomes of what we've done? And this is not just from an ATARCA perspective, but as the trajectory of our personal research agendas and where they're ending up and what our publications will say. So we were, of course, delighted throughout that we have been issuing and minting foodprint tokens, and we have a very specific token minting algorithm, which is in a table that I'll discuss below. We did achieve the proof of concept. We have our minimal viable product. It's operational in the field. I mean, more than that, we're operating in a business environment, and we have business data to compare the outcomes of our treatment against that all of the consumers that are eating at this venue. We did use participatory design with the Food Futures app, and what that means is that we've had 3 trials, and especially in the first trial, and as well with the survey questions we have on user experience and the interface, the user interface, we are gathering a lot of data from the users. We feel like we're in dialogue with our users, and we've been able to keep tweaking and updating the app so that we take advantage of trying to best meet the needs of our users. We believe that we have demonstrated quantitative allocative efficiency with aggregated daily meal choices through the validation function on our app. And again, this has been embedded in the application from itself. So our measure, record, and validate system, which I'll be talking about in the academic presentation tomorrow in much more depth, that system makes sure that the allocative efficiency we're operating is transparent to the users. So it's not just a high-end research vocabulary that we're kicking around in an academic seminar. It's rather that the user is invited to understand what allocative efficiency means with regard to the 1.5 degree lifestyle and is invited to participate in sustainable consumption right up front. So we also feel that we have been successful in that we think more venues would like to participate, and the ultimate goal for us in terms of the next step in functionality would be the sharing function of the token. And as we build the token, hopefully moving the functionality of the token in our app moving forward, what we'd like to do is have the sharing function where we have donated anti-rival or non-rival goods, and that the tokens would be shared with the donor of those goods, and then the person who earned the tokens would maintain the balance of all of the green sustainable acts that person had achieved throughout the history with the app. And then also the sponsor would have the means to have a record of all of the units of sustainable consumption that they donated for. So when they receive a food print token, that means that they donated some kind of a good that went to the person who shared the food print token and who committed the sustainable act. So we can't wait to expand that functionality. And then the next slide is basically, I think, just wasn't there one more, or is that it? Yeah, summarizing food futures. So this is stepping back and looking at what we've achieved with the app. The app provides data on sustainability and values of food choices. This is the measure function of the measure, record, reward. And ultimately, what we would like is to have the data that would actually give us a number in terms of kilograms of CO2 that are avoided in terms of they're not put into the atmosphere. That then with that data that's been digested and analyzed through the app, individuals are empowered to make more informed dining choices. And then we can share the users. Oh, this is a functionality that's in the app that we haven't even talked about. We have a holistic metric so that we would actually have, right now we have material footprint, water footprint, and carbon dioxide equivalent footprint. But over time, we want to power more variables like animal welfare. And we have the means for our users to let vendors know what areas of sustainability they're most concerned about. Then we enable users to view individual and collective impact of their meal choices, and that includes their own personal histories. We counter climate anxiety that individuals cannot make an impact on global outcomes. And we then, in terms of our use of Eleanor Ostrom's concept of polycentric governance, which I'll talk more about in the presentation tomorrow, that we provide a tool for opt-in polycentric governance, and we acknowledge micro-level acts with this shareable non-fungible token. And then the next slide, do we have the purple slide? Or does that one not make it in?
This is the last slide that we have.
Okay, well, we did have one, I thought, that was on, okay, I don't know what happened to that slide, but now we're to the discussion where we have, well, these are the ideas or concepts that we're interested in, is learning maybe how we can do better with outreach, what would be next steps, and ideas for improvement. And I think I'm pretty much on time, hopefully.
Yes, thank you so much, Sonia, for this interesting presentation on Feed Futures. Do we have any questions or comments? You can leave them on the chat if you like, or you can raise your hand and ask here. Okay, while you're thinking, I could ask like...
Wait, Tommy has one.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't notice.
I
Tommy.
did raise my hand, but it
Oh,
was
yeah.
it was my physical hand. So apologies for that. It's like do you have a roadmap, or is there some plans to further develop the software?
Yeah. Well, I mean, our immediate step is that, of course, we want to be in the App Store. And then that means that taking our beta mode, we would at least make sure we have all the functionalities that we have already. But then we definitely want to sponsor the usability of the footprint tokens in terms of sharing them and having some kind of a transaction. We want to build in that functionality. We want to finer grained, well, the index, we want to refine and add more scientific research in terms of the exact footprints that the different meals are causing. And maybe, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Definitely we do. Ulrika, do you want to read the chat
Yes.
question? Okay, thanks.
We have one here in the chat. So Kimmo Mäkinen asks about impact tokens. Could this also be a framework for compensating personal CO2 footprint? For example, could eating red meat in Hesburger consume impact tokens?
So you would offset your own meal by eating green and then later saying, okay, I ate green so many times and now it's possible for me to choose a beef meal. Well, our metric, and Ruta and Shreya, feel free to add to my answer, but the way that our metric works, we have the thermometer that would indicate where individuals' meals fall in terms of the 1.5 degree lifestyle in comparison to the per capita Finnish diet. So about this question, could there be a framework for compensating one's own CO2? I think the way that would work is more that as one eats a varied diet and may sometimes eat beef or dairy, then in that case, one's index registry on the thermometer would fall. But we think that moving toward the 1.5 degree lifestyle, and also for something that's even more a stronger bar, higher bar would be net carbon zero, that at the end of the day, one's handprint from meals wouldn't be sufficient to compensate for a Hesburger meal. But Ruta and Shreya, feel free to add in if you want to add more insight on that question.
Yeah, I think in terms of individual, if you can call it compensation, we are open to also, actually we are exploring opportunities to partner with organizations who could help users compensate or kind of reduce or have a direct impact with organizations who are trying to do these kind of carbon compensations or making an impact on a list of different variables that we have on the index. But that's still like more of a hypothesis because we do not have a collaboration as such, but that's an area of thought that we are constantly thinking of.
Yeah, actually, we did have the vision for that at the very beginning. Our first minimal viable prototype that was only theoretical did have this kind of a functionality in it. And maybe it's good now that we bring it up again. So Kimmo, that is a great idea that you put on the table. Maybe we should go back to original thinking because our very first draft of this did have that function. Thanks for raising that. That's really useful.
Thank you so much. Maybe is there still any questions? Maybe we have time in the end for additional questions. So maybe we could move on move to the Streamr case. So Martin Moravec has prepared a presentation of the Talco.io app. And unfortunately, he couldn't join us today, but we have a pre-recording. So let's watch that. And we have lovely Markku Nousiainen here to answer any questions as well as he can after the presentation. So yes, here it goes.
My name is Martin Moravec. I work as a solutions architect at Streamr. And now I'm going to take you through the case we have developed as a part of ATARCA.
Can you please raise the volume a little bit?
For a new type of NFTs. These are shareable NFTs.
Thanks.
We use them on Talco to help projects build stronger communities. If you have never heard about NFTs before, don't worry. The concept is based on a recently published Ethereum request for comment, the ERC 5023, and this one describes interface with share function and a share event that can be used to extend a regular ERC 721 or ERC 1155 NFT contract. The ERC also contains the reference implementation of a shareable NFT in Solidity. There are many potential use cases to be explored with shareable NFTs, but for now we have focused on using shareable NFTs to grow online communities by giving them recognition that is decentralized and shareable. These NFTs could also provide a stronger sense of belonging for community members. In this case, we have developed DEP, a decentralized application hosted at talcoapp.io for facilitating these NFTs at different stages. The platform was launched in October 2022, back then with a single project, the Streamr project. A few months later, after the initial release, the platform was updated to support multiple projects. This means that any Web3 project, but also non-Web3 project that wants to use shareable NFTs to build and to strengthen their community can reach out to us, and we are able to deploy a set of contracts for them and add the project to the Talco app. At the moment, we have 3 deployed projects at the platform, and we are actively searching for more projects to join us. Regarding infrastructure, these shareable NFTs that are on the Talco platform can be shared by making on-chain transactions on the Polygon blockchain. And because it's an on-chain transaction, you also need a little bit of the Matic, which is the native token of Polygon, to pay for the gas fee for the transaction. If you are a community manager, and once you have deployed your project on Talco, you can start minting shareable NFTs for your community members. There is a UI interface for it, so it's a no-code action, so anybody is able to facilitate this. So who will or who would receive these tokens, these NFTs? Typically, these are meant for community members of each project. In our case, that's the Streamr project community. We wanted to motivate them to be more active and to contribute more to the open source Streamr project. All different kinds of contributions can be rewarded. This can be on one hand source code contributions, by, for example, creating a GitHub pull request with a new feature or a bug fix, or by suggesting or implementing a security improvements to the code base. But what's even more interesting, these NFTs can be also used for no-code contributions. For example, if someone writes a blog post about project, in this case about Streamr, if someone will create a documentation or tutorial on how to set up a specific thing. We also have lots of people that are active in community moderation on different channels. Or for example, if you spread the word about the project by writing a Twitter thread, or if you are simply active on Discord and helping others. When a community member receives a token, that's not the end of the story. That's just the beginning. You can, of course, browse the platform and see your tokens, and you can see tokens of others, but you can also interact with them. Because the token is shareable, you can share it with someone who helped you achieve your contribution. What does it mean? So, for example, you wrote a blog about Streamr network, and someone else helped you by proofreading this blog. In this case, you can share the NFT with them. By doing this, you are sharing the acknowledgement that you have received from Streamr with the other person. If you hold a token, you can also endorse other tokens. This means writing a short thank you text that will be minted as a separate NFT and displayed underneath the token you have endorsed. And don't worry, if you don't hold any tokens at all, you can still come to talkapp.io and you can do something. You can like any of the existing tokens. And same as the other actions, this requires you to at first connecting your wallet and then making an on-chain transaction to record this like. So you may be asking, okay, when I receive this token, how much is it worth actually? What's the value of this NFT? And the answer is that we have intentionally designed the token to have no direct monetary value. This means that you cannot sell it directly for money, and this is because the token is non-transferable. You won't be able to sell it on an NFT marketplace or send it to another address, but it has another value. It has an indirect value. It can serve you as, for example, proof of skill or proof of contribution. It can serve you as proof of early engagement in a valuable project. And you can extract this indirect value by, for example, using the token to improve your CV, and that would allow you to get a better job, higher salary, or a promotion. Minting of the original tokens, so the non-shared tokens that come from the project itself, can be only done by project operators. So how does this work? There is a form for it. There is no coding required, so anybody is able to do this. At first, you need to define metadata, so different fields of this NFT. So these can be fields such as either the name of the receiving person or their nickname or Discord handle. You can also specify what is the name of the contribution. You can add a link to this contribution that the person has done. Then in the next step, you send a minting transaction to blockchain to actually mint this NFT. And afterwards, you take this metadata, it's all just done with 2 clicks, and you sign it with your MetaMask wallet and upload it to Talco. This token becomes visible and the metadata becomes available only after the receiving person has accepted the consent on the Talco platform. The NFT metadata format follows the typical conventions for NFTs and is formatted as a JSON with all the usual fields that are expected from NFTs. So if you hold this NFT in your wallet, you can also view it on other platforms or other wallets because of this compatibility. If you want to use Talco, so what do you need? You need a MetaMask wallet. You need some Matic, which is the native Polygon blockchain token, to pay for the gas fees. The gas fees are very, very low. It's less than, let's say, 1 euro cent per like or per share. And if you are a project admin and you want to mint a token, you will also need some images that will be used as visuals for NFTs. In the case of Streamr, we have used AI-generated images, which allowed us to keep the cost low and get things done quickly. So we can also assist you with this one to guide you here. If you are a community manager, you can reach out to us and we will deploy a project for you on Talco. And afterwards, you'll be able to start giving shareable NFTs to your community. And also because shareable Talco NFTs use the ERC721 interface, you can use them with other services that support this interface, such as, for example, Guild XYZ. That's a very interesting one for community building. And this one allows you to give gated access to different channels, for example, to Discord or Telegram group to holders of these NFTs. So thank you everybody so much for listening, and don't hesitate to reach out to us at info@talcoapp.io. Thank you. Hello everybody, my name is Martin
That was
Moravec.
again.
I work as
I
a
was
solutions
stopping.
architect at
Okay,
Streamr.
but great. Thank you, Martin. And now we have Marco here that is ready to answer any questions that you have about the Talco app. Do we see any hands raising? Yes, we have Sonia. Please, Sonia.
So being a fellow traveler in the space with a pilot experiment, I'm just wondering what you think the greatest successes are of this the shareable non-fungible token system, what you're definitely going to continue in the future.
Yeah, hello. Yeah, I was working in this project for quite a long time, and in the last 4 months I haven't been, so I don't know all the latest advancements and so on, but I try to answer as good as possible. So your question is about like the best outcomes or the successes in this project. Well, we are now preparing this document about the report about the results in the pilots, and I've just read the text about the Streamr pilot written by mostly by Martin and Jarno, and it seems that this award system, this motivation tokens work in the sense that the community has perceived it as a good way of motivating and incentivizing them to produce contributions to the community, and also in focusing on the kind of work that benefits the community most. So basically increasing the allocative efficiency within that community. Of course, the number of answers and the size of the material is quite limited, and it's a bit difficult to draw very concluding results from this, but it seems to work in the community as a way of managing communities and managing the kind of work that is done by the community members.
Thank you, Marco. Then we have a question from Esko. Please, Esko.
Yeah, thanks, Orka. Thanks, and thanks, Mark. So actually, unfortunately, you kind of answered my question already. I was meaning to ask about the kind of the feedback that and a response that you have gotten from your user group, but let me reformulate that a little bit, since I know your background and you have been kind of involved in understanding how to involve your community members and so forth. So in your own opinion, what is the kind of what do you see as the main problem that you would want to address with this kind of approach, and how do you see that this is kind of helping you in moving forward?
Yeah, so one major problem in the community is that while you do get some awards or rewards or like publicity for contributing code to the open source project, so you do it from GitHub basically. There's no such system for non-code contributions, and so basically non-code contributions like blog posts and communications and admin work and moderation and so on kind of goes to a large extent kind of unnoticed if you think about the reward system, and this Talco token system is one way to give kind of equal publicity to all kinds of contributions, not just the code. That was one of the starting points here. And then in general, giving more visibility to and awards and showing the contributions of different community members, which has been kind of not very easy to do in a very consistent way until now. So these awards make it visible that people actually contribute things. They spend their own time serving the community and making valuable contributions, which are absolutely necessary for the future of that community. So it is, I think it is one tool for the community growth and prosperity in the future. Could be a tool for community building, clearly. Yeah, at least these points come to my mind right now.
Thank you, Marco. Interesting opportunities for this in community building. How about Tommy? You had a question. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I try to select the most important one that comes to mind. So how open is Streamr to letting other communities utilize this system, and do you have other cases in incubation, or is someone else using already the system?
Yeah, Streamr is very open to it. So basically, there's an opportunity for other communities to join and start using the platform. Right now we have 3 communities, but mainly most of the work has been done with the Streamr community. So the adoption in this kind of Web3 communities or startups is still kind of work in progress. So now during the ATARCA pilot experiment, there hasn't been enough resources to do this kind of marketing and go-to-market planning and work, which clearly is also quite a lot of time-consuming work. You need to find those communities and then plan and design the tokens that they would launch on the platform and design the category systems and the marketing for them. It takes time in their own community to start this kind of activity. And it's basically a process of at least several months, could be even more. And for that reason, within this timeline of the ATARCA pilot, it hasn't been possible to go that far yet. But it is in the plans, and it will probably happen after the ATARCA project in the near future.
Thanks. I will go for another related question, because I always thought that it, as some kind of a outsider from Streamr, that it's interesting that there is such a division between code contributions and every other contributions of the community. But just when you answered, I guess it was Esko's question, I started to understand that, it's only for code. We have an integrated mission control system, and that's called GitHub. And everything else is kind of, let's say, ad hoc managed. And that's the nature of that those who wrote code, they have these open source tools which are widely utilized standard and also gather statistics. So the contribution data is available to everyone. So like, I think it would be important to note also the integration, not only to the company's human processes, but or the community's human processes, but there's mission control systems.
I think this only demonstrates that they're like Web3 projects or ecosystems are much more than just code. So maybe this GitHub has been a perfect tool for some certain type of software projects which are open source and which are clearly focused on the code and the software. But when we are talking about many actual projects in Web3 space, the importance of the community is rising. So there's a community, and the community wants to communicate. They want to participate. They need a completely different type of approach compared to just software development. And we can see that the tools are kind of lagging behind in that sense. So for example, why is it so difficult to give some kind of visibility to non-code contributions? Clearly, it hasn't been the case previously, so it just hasn't occurred to people that this actually is needed. I think Talco is basically one approach to patch that problem.
Thank you, Marco. Interesting discussion. We can continue to discuss of this case later on, but now do we have Sergi
Yes.
available here? So maybe we can try again on the Barcelona Green Shops case presentation. Please,
We
Sergi.
think that will manage now.
Yeah.
So
Great.
Julia, if you can share. Okay.
Can you see it now?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So let's start. As I was saying, we have to give some context. Barcelona has been a city that has transformed very quickly in the last years. Since the last crisis, the number of tourists and the number of visits in the city has been growing a lot, and there has been a process of gentrification with some districts losing their local shops and their traditional, let's say, economic ecosystems. So we thought that it would be interesting, starting from our experience in Novact, which is an organization that has worked on promoting fair and social economic systems at a local level, and has developed a digital currency that is being used in Barcelona. We thought that we could relate these subjects and explore if there was a possibility to design a pilot, to design an experiment that could help us find anti-rival incentives and let's say develop the work that ATARCA had committed to in these subjects. And we explored this possibility through a participatory process that lasted for about 8 months, the first 8 months of the project. And the main activities of this participatory process were a focus group with shop owners. We interviewed the shop owners of what we call the green shops. These shops have received, let's say, green label by Rezero. Rezero is an NGO that has worked in the last 16 years to promote zero waste consumption, and has been supporting shops in selling products that have no plastic, that are ecological, etc. And we contacted Rezero and contacted the shops that have this label, and gathered with them and made focus groups, asking them about our ideas, about the possibilities of creating mechanisms, anti-rival mechanisms, to generate anti-rival value through digital tools, and to try to push to generate positive externalities or reduce negative externalities in their economic sector. And the response was positive. Actually, they said that they felt that their economic sector was not didn't have let's say enough coordination, that they were a bit unprotected against the competition of large corporations, like large supermarkets and these kinds of international chains. And they said that that they thought it was a good idea to have a platform, community platform, or professional community platform that put them in contact and allow them to know each other, generate some common identity, and share knowledge and know-how. So that was, let's say, a positive indication that we were on the right track. And second, we did a randomized survey to middle-income consumers in Barcelona, like 400 middle-income consumers, and we asked for some questions related to consumptions, to patterns of consumptions and values in consumption. We found that most, around 90%, declared that they were buying in, like, generally in large supermarkets, but 71% also said that they would buy more in local shops if they could, let's say, appreciate the impact of their consumption. So they felt actually that their actions were sort of negligible, and they declared that with some information about this impact, they probably would change their habits. So with that in mind, and with this background, we decided to move forward and to design, to implement the Barcelona Green Shops pilot, which has, let's say, two sides. It's a modular experiment, and it has the objective, the aim, to promote sustainable consumption in Barcelona. And it has tried to do this through, as I say, two parallel actions. One has been to create a community for green shops, for these shops that share this label before we started the pilot, but didn't have cohesion among them, didn't have coordination, and didn't have a sense of identity, and didn't know each other. And the second one is to use the REC, which is the app that Novak has created, the infrastructure, the digital infrastructure that Novak has created since 2018. This digital currency is present in Barcelona, and it has hundreds of users. And we thought that it could be very interesting. It seems that the screen has gone black. Okay. So we thought that this would be very very interesting because using the existing infrastructure and know-how by Novak would give us a platform to add functionalities, anti-rival functionalities, but not starting from scratch. And that's what we have done. Okay, so next slide. So as we were saying, we have two main problems. The first is that consumers do not have enough information about the impact of local shop, buying in local shops, the positive benefits of this, let's say, engaging with this community. And shop owners do not have a platform or incentive structure to contribute to positive sum professional community discussions. So they don't have a platform for coordination, they don't have a platform to exchange knowledge and to share tips without contravening competition law. But yeah, they are very isolated, as they told us. So, as we were saying, these have been the two main developments. The first development has been Connecta, this professional community platform that has mainly discussion and messaging functionalities with tokenized incentives. And second, the anti-rival incentives and anti-rival functionalities added to the RECAP. As I was explaining to you, the RECAP is an app. It's like a wallet, let's call it like that, with money in REX, which is a currency that is at par with the euro. And this app has a map with the shops that take REX and different options. It has been improving in the last years, and now we have added this functionality of the challenges that we will explain later. So, as we were saying, we have created this professional community platform also to, like, as a trick, like a memoristic trick, we can call it B2B because it's a business-to-business platform. And this facilitates communication and coordination among shop owners. The idea is that shop owners can exchange information within this platform and can raise questions, start conversations, answer questions of other members, etc., and also start conversations about actions, common actions. Okay, so what we have, let's say, designed as rewards is the contribution tokens and the like tokens. The contribution tokens basically are minted when these users start a topic or make a post in the platform. And a second kind of token, we have the like token, which is it's the sharing, let's say, functionality. When a like is given to a contributor, it is interpreted as sharing the token, the contribution token with this person that has been liked. So here you can see the starting the login page. Okay, this is a screen. So here you write your ID and your password and get into the platform. We can go to the next. In this page you can see, let's say, the main page of Connecta with the different topics in rows horizontally, and of course, if we scroll down, not here because this is a caption, but if we scroll down, we would see all the topics that are there, with their publication date, the responses, the views, etc. And here we have a sample of the kinds of conversations that members have had. This is a conversation about bioplastics and plastic bags and the technical characteristics of the packaging in their shops. And it's an interesting discussion that shows that there has already been some knowledge transfer and some curiosity in sharing with each other among different shops. Here we can see the, let's say, the account of Julia in this case, and we see how this works. This is where we have the information of each of the members of the platform, and it tells us the number of topics that Julia has started. You see temas, it's topics. Also respostas, which are responses, answers. We also have sending or sharing, which is the likes, 32 likes, and likes received, 13. Okay, so these are the, let's say, the main actions that one can do inside the platform. And then if we look below, we see the three, let's say, the three words, paraula, saviesa, and impuls. These are in Catalan, but that means word, wisdom, and momentum. These are the three categories of our token. Each of the above actions translates into points, into scores in each of these categories, depending on the type of action, etc. So in this case, for example, we see that Julia has a badge in momentum with 123 points over 100, so it has surpassed the number 100, and that means that this is the threshold to obtain the first token of momentum. Okay, but she hasn't got any token for word or wisdom. Okay, so you see how this works. This gives us the idea of the different contributions of the participants of the platform. So let's move forward. Now we will talk about the B2C platform, so the REC platform, and what's the logic and what's the design of the experiment in relation to this second platform. So as we were saying, we added anti-rival features to the existing REC payment system. Okay, and we added a token system, an identity token that is created when a user registers in the app, the REC app. Okay, so this token, it becomes updated with the different actions, with the spending actions of the users. Okay, and these actions are the challenges, which are presented or created every week. We are already now in the 7th challenge, and each week we, let's say, add a different kind of challenge. I will present you now what they contain. Okay, and depending on the completion of this challenge or not, the token is updated with the information about this completion. And let's say, to add to the previous discussion, this is also updated into Talco. The B2C platform is already working also in Talco. So this also gets updated every week to Talco. So let's go to the results. We will yeah, sorry, the previous one, I will, yeah, we haven't So that's the screen, the telephone screen, with the challenges and the rewards. You can see on the left retos, which is the challenges, and it explains which are the challenges. As you see, it says, for example, spend 10 recs in shops that sell ecological products, okay? And you have 10 days, okay? So, and it tells the consumer, the user, how many remaining recs he has to spend to achieve the challenge. You see the bar moving to the right, so that explains to the user how close he is or she is to completing the challenge. And the same with the challenges below. Okay, so and if one sees the screen on the right, it's a summary of the awards, sorry. So one can see how many shoppings or how many buys have been done, how many, let's say, challenges have been completed. In this case, 3. We have 54 buys, and of course, the recs that have been spent. In this case, we have 6,532 and 14 cents. Okay, so just for you to understand how this works. So let's go to the results. First, we will do the B2B platform, the Connecta professional community platform, and see what are the, let's say, quantitative and qualitative results of our pilot. This experiment has been running for 8 months, and you will see now the data. So let's go to the next slide. As I was saying, the pilot has been running from well, it was activated in April, but it was in testing mode until July. Okay, so we were trying things and making it work and testing it, and in July it was presented to the shop owners. Okay, so it was officially launched in early July, and since then we have been gathering data and observing what's the activity within the platform. We have designed the experiment in a way that, let's say, we only have one group, we don't have a control group. We thought that doing it otherwise would have, let's say, limited the network effects of the experiment. And similarly to food futures, this is a pilot that has been tested directly in the market, and for us it was also important to find a compromise between, let's say, the neatness of statistical data and also the application and the use of this platform. And it was important that all 25 shop owners could have all the functionalities and be incorporated in the experiment. So what we decided is that we would run the experiment with one group and longitudinally, and we would, let's say, define 2 steps. The first step from July to early November or the end of October. This period would have all the functionalities except the tokenization, the awards and the scores. And after that, we would introduce the reward system to see if there was a difference, if we could perceive that these anti-rival incentives had an effect. Okay, so what we can see here is that if we look at the logins and the post, we see that the use has been more or less regular, but we have an increase in the end of December and early January in activity, in logged ins and posts. So we think that the introduction of the reward system might have contributed to that. Here we have, let's say, 3 categories of posts and topics that we think are the most relevant. The first one is the news posts and topics. This is the post and topics posted by ReZero and by Novak. So this is actually the promotion activity, and as you can see, it is quite linear. It increases quite linearly, especially since September. It is very regular because actually this is a, let's say, a protocol in a sense. We have been posting information every 2 weeks to try to incentivize discussions, etc. But we haven't, let's say, altered our pattern so that it can be controlled and it can be observed how we have done it. But then on the right, we see the activity by shop owners. And here we have the share activity and the propose. These are 2 categories that correspond to the awards. And as you can see, we can perceive clearly that in both cases, in the first case, in the case of share, there is a big jump in activity at the end of the year. So the gray line is the, let's say, cumulative post. So it gives you an idea of total activity. And the rest is, well, the total topics that you see below the gray line is total topics. The difference between topics and posts is that posts can be answers to a new topic. So it's let's say, a more general category. There are more posts than topics. And topics is when someone starts. So it's more like the first action of creating a new conversation. And then you have let's say, the weekly data below these 2 lines. And you can see that weekly posts have had 2 peaks during January and February, or the last part of January, sorry. And with propose, the activity has been lower, but again, we see that there is more activity after November when tokens are introduced. But of course, as we have said, this is not a very intense activity. There haven't been many proposed posts because also we have identified that this is proposal for action is something like less superficial and more difficult for shop owners. So this category hasn't been so used as share, which is posting information and sharing information about different things, as we have seen in the previous example about plastic bags. Okay, so we can move forward. Here we see the scores and awards, and we see how this started to work since in the case of scores, they are introduced in October, but they are not translated into awards until November. Okay, and we see that there is a first period that especially scores that is more that grows steadily, and in January we see a big jump in activity, which corresponds to what we have seen previously. The same goes with the awards. You see the introduction of the awards in November, and activity increasing, especially at the end of the year and early new year. About the qualitative results, we think that this is very important because, as we have seen, we only have 25 shops in the exercise in the pilot, and of course the statistical power of the exercise is it's interesting, but it's limited, the statistical significance. So we thought that these results had to be complemented with qualitative research, with qualitative work, and for that we had interviews, in presence in interviews in their shops, and also surveys that were also sent through email at the end, like recently, some weeks ago. And they have expressed that Conecta, the shop owners have expressed that Conecta is a positive development. Most shop owners have introduced themselves and expressed satisfaction through Conecta. So they have engaged with the platform, and they have welcomed the initiative and expressed joy for being part of the community. We see that the topics related to the products are preferred. We have discussed with them, and we have also analyzed the content of the exchanges, and we see that technical questions related to the products, components, and packaging have been the most interesting, the most engaging topic of conversation. Whereas marketing tools for selling more have not engaged so many people, have not generated so many conversations. And nonetheless, and apart from having expressed this satisfaction, they have told us that they are very busy people. The shop schedule in Spain is, let's say, from 9 in the morning until 8 in the evening, with a couple of hours to eat. So it's really long hours, and they don't have much time for other things. And in most of the shops, they are working alone, or they are 2 persons. So, but nonetheless, they want to continue they will continue to engage with the platform. Okay, so our conclusions here are that jump-starting network effects needs intensive work. No doubt about this. Zero and Novak have been intensely promoting platform interactions and consolidating the network, although we see some activity in it, requires more time. Trust takes time, so interactions that require in-depth content among shop owners are less frequent than those that are more superficial. Business-related transfer of knowledge is already starting to happen. Shop owners have had discussions about products and technologies that they use. Shop owners have expressed satisfaction with Conecta as well. And they say that they are busy and they use it sporadically, but they want to have it and they want to learn more about it, and they want to make it work. And we see that there is an indication of positive impact of tokenized awards and scores, which can be observed. And we interpret this as an addition to the overall efficiency in the system. And if we go to the B2C platform, this has been running, we are referring again to the REC platform, to the REC app and the anti-rival functionalities of the REC app. This has been running since early January, okay? And here you have a sample of the first 5 challenges. For example, challenge number 1 was to spend 5 regs in green shops. Challenge number 2 was to spend 10 regs in green shops. Challenge number 3 was to do 2 shoppings in shops of the rec map, etc. So you see there are these kinds of challenges, and we have continued. As I was saying, we are in challenge number 7 now. And in the right column, you can see the challenges completed. So to give you an idea, there are like 1,000 users engaged in this campaign, in the pilot, and we have had these completions numbers, which we think these are good numbers. Okay, and we have also seen an increase in the use of RECs as well during this period. So we understand this as a positive result and as a positive contribution of challenges to the use of the REC and the sustainable consumption, to summarize. So we can go to the conclusion. So as you see, challenges have motivated the use of RECs. This has increased the network's effect for the REC digital currency. Most challenges have had similar impacts among them. And challenges that involve spending in more than one shop have been less successful as they require significant marginal effort. Okay. And of course, as in the previous case, more time is needed to consolidate the project. But we are happy, and we interpret these results as again an increase in allocative efficiency in the green shops community. And thanks for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Sergi, for the presentation. Very interesting case. So now it's time to think about questions. If you have, we have one from Sonia already here in the chat, so I can read it to you. Sonia had a question about the nature of the intervention using the challenges. Is this a nudge? How would we characterize it? Also, how do the challenges related to the token minting, or is this a different aspect of the platform?
Well, when you say nudge, I don't know if I understand. You mean like an addition to the app?
Because nudge is a behavioral economist's way of getting people to do something. So it's like we decide what we want other people to do, hopefully based on their preferences. So we build the infrastructure to move them to do that. So I'm just wondering, what are these challenges in terms of how do we characterize them, and then how are they related to the token minting?
Well, let's say the token minting is it's done when the consumer registers in the REC, but then there is a new minting that overrides the previous one. Every time that there is a challenge completed, the same token is let's say minted again with the new information. So yeah, this is a nudge. Actually, this is an incentive that wants to try to engage consumers into completing these challenges, which are spending in RECs in the green shops. So yes, what we are trying to do is to promote this kind of consumption.
So, but I still don't really understand. So I complete a challenge and I get, is it like the Streamr case, and then I get a SNFT for completing a challenge? And is that, I'm just not following how the token, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, interesting. I think there are a lot of like interesting synergies between all of the three cases that you can all like learn from each other for that. Do we have questions from participants? We have from Esko. Please go ahead, Esko.
Yeah, thanks, Roika, and thanks, Sergi, for the presentation. So really great stuff. Maybe something you could elaborate a little bit. So in the end, you have this slide titled something like anti-rival functionalities, where we're kind of referring to the use of RECs, and which, to my understanding, is still really much in the rival scope. So basically, euros in essence. So how is this then? Can you walk us through how this then kind of links to the anti-rival value that we are hoping to create here, and what is the connection here? Because that's one of the, I think, key questions and aspirations in this project, to kind of connect the rival and anti-rival worlds together.
It's true. and that's, let's say, the gray areas of rival and anti-rival. But you are right, I didn't explain this well enough. We consider that rec, of course, has a content in value that is rival, but at the same time generates anti-rival effects, network economies or network externalities. And this is what we are looking for here. We are trying to promote this. We know that this is by using the currency, but at the same time, we understand that using this currency generates, let's say, a market, a system that promotes this kind of consumption and as well helps the green shops. So we think that this is anti-rival by nature. But of course, it has rival aspects, or at least, you know, it uses rival currency.
Okay, interesting. Thank you, Sergi, and thank you, Esko, for the question. I have a question for Sergi. Do you think, like, could you like do this experiment in other cities as well, or what do you think is original for Barcelonian people, or do you think the context make it any difference?
I think it can be replicated. I think this is one of the positive things of our experiment. Of course, as we were saying, one learning from this experiment is that it needs intense work. When you start working with a community, you need to be on the ground and you know, do lots of visits and talk to the people and help them log into the platform and, you know, teach them a little bit. So we have a lot of work in this direction. But if this first, let's say, promoting work is there, I think it can happen in many cities with similar contents. So I think one could think of this as something that can be replicated. And also, I would even think that this might be adaptable to other kinds of shops that are not only ecological shops or, you know, food shops. It could work with different local businesses, and so I think this is a project that has possibilities in terms of versatility or, you know, like replication.
Yes, that's interesting. How about then if we think about all of these three cases, Sonia, in the Feed Future case, are you also trying to build a community around the Feed Futures app?
Yes, that's a great question. And again, Ruta and Shreya, feel free to come in on this. But I guess our first step is exploring with the University of Helsinki. They seem to be open to the idea of combining our course with the sustainability course that's required for all undergraduates at the University of Helsinki. So you can imagine the kind of population and community we would develop if we were required for that many. I mean, we wouldn't be in the thousands of students that would have to use the app. And then similarly, if it just became with the UniCafe, just part of the UniCafe institutional structure that people knew the app was available and you could check your meals, that would definitely take that next step toward building a community. Ruta and Shreya, I don't know if you want to add anything, but they look happy as they are, but not to just monopolize for our team.
Okay, great. How about like using the ATARCA app? Have you considered it in the Feed Futures case?
You mean offering non-fungible, the shareable non-fungible tokens, like using their token template, or what were you thinking?
Yeah.
I guess because our tokens are supposed to be a measure of the handprint related to sustainable actions, we hadn't thought of having them be like a badge so much as a metric of and a history of sustainable acts. So we hadn't thought about that, honestly.
Yeah, so it's a bit different kind of token that you are giving to the participants. We have still a bit of time. Do we have more questions from the audience? Eska, you have a question? Please go ahead.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks. So actually, this is something. So we kind of touch upon the topic of token valuation in all of the use cases, but maybe this is just something that I'm curious to hear your thoughts on the kind of the token valuation and like how comparable is the value of the tokens across the cases. So is there kind of any mechanisms or something unified patterns that you could recognize? How could we kind of transfer the value from different systems and from one system to another? So is this something that you have at all considered in the experiments?
Well, let me just jump in. So ultimately, we'd like our tokens to be shareable for discounted goods. And then the question would be, I mean, I think even a coupon, if you legally by law, at least in the United States, I don't know about Europe, but if you issue a coupon, it can't have a zero value. It has to have like a fractional value of a cent. And one way we could go about putting a value on our tokens would be that a metric ton of CO2 abatement, avoidance, or sequestering, depending on if it's the EU market, the regulatory market, it's 85 euros per metric ton. And in the voluntary compensation market, it's 4 euros per metric ton. So what we could do is evaluate the fractional value of our footprint tokens according to that metric, and it would obviously be less than the transaction costs to mint them. I don't know if that's helpful or not, but we're definitely able to think in terms of evaluation monetarily in that way. But I'll just throw that out there because we've done that much thinking about it.
Interesting. Then we have a question, I guess, for Sergi from Sonia. Sergi, have you thought about the anti-rival function of the SNFTs issued for the challenges?
Yes, we think that it's similar to yours. It has an impact, let's say an environmental impact. We haven't measured it, but we have interpreted the challenge or the issuance of the token as proof of transactions in these shops using REX. So this is the idea that there are, let's say, positive externalities of these transactions.
I just really wanted to follow up in the sense that, so it was, I guess it was Ruta's sort of brainstorming and a brilliant moment of insight when she thought that the footprint tokens could be shared for anti-rival goods, so that if you get so many of the footprint tokens, and if we have a donor like a digital good that's already been paid for, but it's easy to proliferate more copies, then it would be natural to use the anti-rival tokens to share to get that value that's already anti-rival. So that's what I'm meaning. Like once you have the token that you're getting for the challenges, what function would it have in terms of shareable value going down the road rather than you get the token? I mean, we have to think about that for food futures because we haven't done this yet. We're just looking down the road for how we would do that in the future.
We haven't, what we thought is that we could create, but we hadn't had the time, but the idea was to make a chain of challenges, like sharing your challenge with someone else so that it would become viral. So that there could be, let's say, an addition to the token of the person that is sharing his challenge, apart from the challenge that he has or she has completed in the beginning. So the idea was not only to have the challenge in itself, but to be able to share it and show others, friends, family and members of the community, saying, look, this week I completed this challenge, so that people would follow the chain. But of course, that's the next step. That we thought that this is very similar to the idea, we discussed this with Marco, the idea of the bucket challenges in YouTube, and like how people record themselves having frozen baths, and like then share the video on YouTube, and people continue the chain or something like that, so that in this sense it could generate like network effects.
Thank you, Sergi. I think we have still a question for one last question. Tommy, you have your hand up.
Sure. I was while listening to all of these and yesterday, I thought that I would one graph from the yesterday's presentation, which helps us to understand how these cases relate to each other, and it's pretty interesting. I don't know if you agree, but just for some kind of discussion's sake, may I share my screen for a while?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
If you can see this from the presentations of our advisors, and it seems to me that if you would draw some kind of an arrow from upper right hand corner, I don't know if you see my cursor or not, perhaps not, upper right hand corner, namely the individual external, what is measured with rational numbers and physical units, that would be like upper right hand corner is the food futures in terms of rational numbers moving towards the social imperative of the lower left hand corner for the collective measured in ordinal numbers. Hence you could see the traffic lights with like green, yellow and red, and then these two other cases, most notably the Barcelona case, is something like starting from the tribal imperative, perhaps also somewhat the moral, well, all of the cases, perhaps some of the moral imperative measured in names, which the SNFTs actually are. You can consider them as names, especially if they are badges. They are some kind of nominal units which you can gather and measure the badges. And moving from these two cases, namely the Streamr and the rec case, moving from the lower right hand corner and upper left hand corner towards the social imperative, some kind of ordinal case, which we were discussing. Just wanted to bring that up.
Thank you so much, Tommy. I think this is a great slide to end the whole session, you summing up for all of these cases. Thank you so much for all the presenters. I wish we had more time to discuss this image forward, but maybe we have an opportunity later. But yeah, thank you for everyone for participating, and maybe looking forward to seeing you in other sessions this week. So see you, and thank you all.